Hello, listeners, it's Sherry Pearl. When my voice turned out to be the sexiest thing in the room. Dear Sherry, if you'd told me this time last year that the filthiest, most dangerous thing I'd ever bring into the bedroom would be my own voice, I'd have laughed, apologised for laughing, and changed the subject. I'm in my early 30s, British to the bone. I say sorry when people walk into me in Tesco. I've had relationships, I've had sex, some of it genuinely lovely, but I've always been that woman, quiet, chill, low maintenance, nice little noises so no one feels awkward, heads full of fantasies, mouths full of, yeah, that's fine. Then one Tuesday, I walked into a hot studio above a yoga shop for a workshop called Free Your Voice, Free Your Body. I rolled my eyes internally, obviously. Now I'm writing to tell you what happened when I took that freed voice home. The studio smelt of incense and old wooden floorboards. Someone had covered the mirrors with long scarves, like they'd decided we'd all stared at ourselves enough for one lifetime. 9 women on mismatched cushions, one facilitator in an oversized jumper and bare feet. Hand on your belly, she said. Close your eyes. One honest sigh. The first sound that came out of me was pathetic, a polite exhale, the sort you make standing up from a chair in an office. Then a woman behind me let one rip, not rude, just real. Low, long, absolutely not pretty. My cheeks burned on her behalf, and then something in my chest loosened for her too. We tried again. My second sigh dropped lower in my body. I felt it drag across my ribs, through my throat. It wasn't cute, it wasn't sexy, it was mine. Notice what your mind says the moment you make a sound, the facilitator said. That's the same voice that tells you to shut up when you're enjoying yourself in bed. That landed like someone had flicked a light on in a room I'd been stumbling through for years. Later, we walked barefoot around the studio, making a noise every time something felt good, a stretch, a click in the spine. Cool floor under hot feet. I caught my reflection in a gap in the scarves. Cheeks flushed, mouth open, this constant little stream of ah, half laugh, half sigh. And I thought very clearly, what would happen if I sounded like this with him? Him is Adam. 3 years together, one small South London flat, too many mugs, one slightly tragic houseplant. He's kind, funny, works too much, always smells a bit like coffee and fresh laundry. In bed, he always asks, "You all right?" And I always answer like this, I let him guess, let his hands do detective work while my own body stayed mostly polite. That night, I came home from the workshop buzzing, warm under the skin, like I'd had a glass of wine on an empty stomach. He was at the kitchen table, laptop open, t-shirt creased, joggers low on his hips. The lamp behind him turned the edges of him soft. He looked up over his glasses and smiled. "Hey you, how was this voice thing?" I kicked my boots off and leaned on the doorframe. "Loud," I said. "In a good way. We made noises on purpose." His eyebrow did that little climb it does. "Like choir loud or cult loud?" "Like women not pretending everything's fine, any more loud," I replied. "And I've got an idea you might find absolutely terrifying and also quite hot." That got his full attention. He closed the laptop with a soft click. "Go on then." I sat opposite him, fingers wrapped round a mug I wasn't actually drinking from, heart doing laps. "So," I started, "you know how in bed I'm a bit quiet?" "A bit?" he said, lips twitching. "I've been on ghost tours in York with more atmosphere." I kicked him under the table, but I was grinning. "I went to this workshop," I said, "and we practiced actually making sounds when something feels good, without apologizing, and I realized I don't do that with you. At all." He watched me, properly now. "I'd like to try something different tonight," I went on. "I want to use my voice, to tell you what I like, what I don't, while it's happening, not afterwards in a debrief, out loud, in the moment." He leaned back, exhaled through his nose. I could see him processing, and underneath that, a flicker of hunger. "And what do you need from me?" he asked. "To listen," I said. "To believe me, and not take it personally if I say, 'not like that.' It's not a rating, it's me turning the volume up on my side of things." He gave a tiny, nervous laugh. "Sounds slightly terrifying," he admitted, "and incredibly sexy. Is that a yes?" He pushed his chair back and stood, coming round to me. He dropped a hand to my shoulder, thumb brushing my collarbone. "Yes," he said simply. "Definitely, yes." Upstairs, everything felt sharper. The bedroom was the same, soft lamplight, slightly rumpled white duvet, the faint smell of our washing powder and his aftershave. But I noticed it in a different way. The cotton was a little rough against the backs of my thighs when I sat down. The air felt cooler on my shoulders when I took my jumper off. My body felt present, not half a step to the left, watching itself. He sat beside me, the mattress dipping under his weight, his thigh warm where it brushed mine. "Still all right?" he asked quietly. I nodded, then realized that was the old way. "Yes," I said. "I'm all right. I'm just actually here this time." He smiled at that, reached up, and tucked a loose bit of hair behind my ear. His fingertips grazed the edge of my jaw. A stupid little shiver went all the way down my spine. Usually I would swallow that reaction, that first little spark. This time I let it move me. He kissed me, slow at first, familiar. His lips soft, a little chapped, tasting faintly of peppermint tea. My hands slid up under his t-shirt, over warm skin and the gentle curve of his stomach. When his mouth trailed down to my neck, his stubble scraped just enough to sting pleasantly. Instinct told me to keep the noise neat. Instead, I let the breath fall out of me in a proper sound. Not a polite a low, honest, from the belly oh that surprised both of us. I felt his hand tighten on my waist. "Bloody hell," he murmured against my skin. "Hi." "Hi," I breathed, and laughed because suddenly it was funny how long I'd been holding my breath in this room. Then came the part I'd really signed up for. His hand slid under the hem of my t-shirt, palm broad and warm on my bare stomach. I felt the contrast of his heat and the cool air on the bit of skin he'd exposed. Normally I'd tense a bit, suck in, hope he didn't notice, and let him wander wherever his instinct took him. This time I put my hand over his, not to stop him, to steer. He stilled immediately. "Too much?" he asked. "No," I said. My voice sounded different to my own ears, lower, not so polite. "Just not there yet." I guided him a fraction to the side, down, where I knew the anticipation would curl instead of clench. "Here," I said. One small word, heavy as a confession. He moved with me, not against me, fingers adjusting, pressure shifting. And when he landed in that sweet, frustrating borderland my whole body knew by heart, my breath caught properly. I didn't give him a neat little "that's nice." I let the noise happen. It came out as a sort of broken yes that rolled up from my chest. "Like that," I managed, my hand still over his. "Stay there." He looked up at me then, eyes darker than the room, and something hot tightened in my belly. "I could do that," he said, "for as long as you like." And then he did. I won't narrate where every hand went or how exactly we moved. You know the basics. 2 warm bodies, a bed that squeaks if you lean on the wrong bit, breath mixing in the small space between faces. What changed that night wasn't the geography of us, it was the commentary. When he unhooked my bra, on the second try, which I found weirdly endearing, I didn't automatically cross my arms, suck in, and hope for flattering angles. I noticed how the air felt on my chest, how the fabric slid down my arms. His gaze, yes, but also my own sensations. When his hands cupped me, thumbs stroking slowly over skin already sensitized, I didn't hold my breath. I let a sound rumble up and out, a small, uncontrolled thing that made his shoulders drop and his pace change. "More of that," I said, surprising myself again. He obeyed instantly, like we'd been doing this for years. Sometimes I said softer, sometimes don't stop. Once, when he tried a thing I've never liked on anyone, I took his wrist gently and laughed, breathless. "Not that," I said. "Not tonight." Old me would have put up with it and gone somewhere else in my head. This version just redirected. He didn't sulk, didn't crack a joke to cover his ego. "Fair," he murmured, and went back to the things that made my toes dig into the sheets. There was a point when he was above me, one of his hands braced by my head, the other doing very deliberate, very considerate things lower down, and my whole body had gone tight and shaky. The cotton of the duvet rasped softly under my fingers as I gripped it. His thigh was wedged between mine, solid and hot. I could feel a bead of sweat sliding down the side of my neck into my hairline. Normally, this is where I clamp down, literally and metaphorically, and let the whole thing wash through me as quietly as possible. This time, when the wave started to rise, I followed it instead of fighting it. The sound that came out of me wasn't pretty. It wasn't something you'd put on a soundtrack. It was raw and a little messy. His name, half-finished words, helpless little broken sounds. For a heartbeat, the old voice in my head panicked. Too loud. Neighbours. Walls. He'll think you're ridiculous. I answered it by deliberately making one more noise, just because I could. Under me, I felt him react as if it had gone straight into his bloodstream. "Jesus, Elle," he breathed. "Don't you dare stop sounding like that." So I didn't. I rode it out honestly, every stutter in my breath, every scrap of sound. It felt like stepping over a line drawn years ago by people who were never going to be in this room with us anyway. Afterwards, the lamp was still on. I hadn't insisted on turning it off halfway through. We lay there, skin damp, sheets twisted round our legs, my head on his chest. His skin was warm and slightly salty, heart thudding under my ear, his fingers drawing lazy shapes on my shoulder. For once, the silence wasn't full of me replaying everything and rating my performance. He broke it first. "So," he said, voice still hoarse, "that was different." "Bad different?" I asked, looking up at him. He snorted. "If that was bad," he said, "I'm absolutely not equipped for good." I laughed, feeling it all the way down. "Serious question," he went on. "Where has that voice been hiding?" I thought about the studio, the covered mirrors, a room full of women learning to sigh without apologizing. "In my throat," I said, "under about 30 years of shh." He turned onto his side to face me properly, propping his head on his hand. "Can I tell you the sexiest part of all that?" "I thought we'd just done the sexiest part," I said. He shook his head. "Yeah, that was... yeah," he admitted, eyes flicking down my body and back again. "But the best bit was you. Talking. Hearing you say, 'here,' more. Not like that, without immediately following it with, 'sorry.' Something in my chest loosened in a way that had nothing to do with lungs. I felt like I was actually there," I said quietly. "Not just letting things happen at me." He smiled then, that soft, crooked smile that made me fall for him at a terrible pub 5 minutes from Clapham Junction. "Stay there," he said. "Please, I like that version of you. A lot." So that's my story, Sherry. No grand gestures, no dramatic reinventions, just a flat, a man I already loved, and a part of myself I'd been keeping on mute. If there's a woman listening who hears herself in my old habit of lying still, being good, making polite little sounds so no one feels weird, this is for her. You don't have to reinvent your whole life to feel more passionate. You don't need new lingerie or a more dramatic lover. You might just need one word. Here, more, slower, not like that. Said once, out loud, without the sorry stapled to the end. Watch what happens, not just to them, although trust me, it does interesting things to them, but to you, to the way your own body responds when it hears you finally asking for what it wants. I always thought my sexiest parts were whatever I could hide under lace. Turns out, the thing that really undoes him, and, if I'm honest, me, is my own voice, unedited, in a small bedroom with thin walls and someone who actually wants to hear me, with a slightly hoarse love from South London, Ellie. Maybe you recognise yourself in her, the polite one, the easy one, the woman who edits her sounds so no one feels uncomfortable. If this letter stirred something in your throat, let it be a little permission slip to say one honest word next time. Here, more, not like that, without the sorry on the end. When you're ready to tell me about the night your own voice finally showed up in the room with you, you know where to send your letter. I'm Sherry Pearl. This is Dust of Passion Stories. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next story that might be the one that turns your volume up.